Hey, what's up everybody? I'd like to welcome you to another Juice tutorial. And in this tutorial, what we're going to do is we're going to finish building our audio player that we started building our last tutorial. So just to review what we did our last tutorial, we actually just created the functionality where we can actually just hit an open button and then our regular window opens where we're able to select an audio file and choose it, and it'll load into an audio reader, and we're going to be able to read from that source using a transport. So what we're going to do this tutorial is we're going to actually create our play and stop buttons. So we're going to actually be able to play our track and then stop it. And of course, with our open button, we can choose a different track if we want. Okay, so it sounds like a really simple thing. It's a little bit more. It involves a couple more things than I think most people would think. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And if you find this video useful, be sure to like, and if you're not subscribed, subscribe. It means a lot to me. And what I'm going to do with this tutorial is I'm going to, as usual, kind of go through my own thought process of how I like to think through actually implementing these things. So I don't have any notes with me or anything. I like to kind of test myself just to like think through the process. And this is based off of the Juice tutorial on building a simple audio player. So be sure to check it out. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So once again, we're going to implement some a play button and a stop button that's going to be able to play our track and stop it. And then of course we already have the open button where we can load another track if we want to. Okay, so first thing that we're going to do is we're going to actually create these buttons. So I'm going to create two new text buttons. So this one's going to be called play button. And we're going to do a stop button. And then we're going to go over here. We're just going to go ahead and initialize these with some names here. So this is just in our initialization list. And we're just going to call this play. And then we got stop button, and this is going to be stop. And now we're just going to do some initial settings here. So we need to tell the play button what we want it to do, what we want to happen when the user actually hits the play button or the stop button. So we're going to set that up now. So we're going to use play button on click. And this is something that we went through our last tutorial with a Lambda function. So if you're not sure what a Lambda function is, check out my last tutorial, or there's a really great talk from CPPCon on how to do Lambda functions, and it takes you like on a whole tour of it. And maybe I'll link it. I'll put a link to it below in the description. So check that out. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a function that happens when we hit our play button there. And I'm just going to leave that blank because I haven't created the function that we want to happen when the user actually hits the play button. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing for the stop button. And once again, we're just going to listen for this event, listening for when the user actually hits the stop button. And then we're going to define what's going to happen there. So it's going to be two functions like play button clicked, stop button clicked. So, and we're going to make those visible. And play button. And we're going to do the same thing with the stop button. By the way, I'm flying through these parts a little bit quicker because it's stuff that we've already kind of gone through. If you feel that it's too quick, just drop me a comment below and let me know. I'm always curious if what I'm saying is too quick or too slow. So just let me know. Don't be afraid if it's going too quick for you. Don't be afraid to say so I can like slow it down a little bit. Okay. So what else we're going to do is we're going to set this to some colors. So we can do play button, set color. And then this is what we're actually going to do, if we're going to color the outline or if we're going to color the text, or and we're just going to color the button itself. So this is button color ID. And then this is going to be the play button. So we're just going to set this to green. Great. Do the same thing for the stop button. Set color, text button, button color ID, colors, red. Okay. Another thing that we're going to do here is what we're going to set the play button to enabled, and then we're going to disable the stop button. So, on most web players, when you hit the play button, basically the stop button kind of comes out at you, and that's enabled now, so you can hit the stop button, but you can't hit on most web players, you can't hit play twice. Once you hit play once, then it's playing, and that option is disabled for you now. And so that's what we're going to do here. So since our initial kind of state is going to be is that the player is going to be stopped, we're going to enable the play button to start off with. So set enabled is what we want, and we're going to have true there, and then stop button. Because it's going to be stopped, we don't need the user or want to give the user the option to press stop again because it's already stopped. So we're going to do set enabled to false for the stop button. Okay. And I think that's good for that. So let's just go ahead and draw these now. So we got play button, set bounds, and since the height of it is 30, we can maybe set the distance between them to be 40. So we'll do 10, we'll do 50, which is 40 from 10, the open button. Then we got get width, minus 20, and then 30, and then stop button, set bounds, 10, and then we got 90, get width, minus 20, 30. Okay, and we're going to go up here. We're going to actually just give our component a little bit more of a height there. So just reset that to 150. So let's just make sure that everything is where we want it to be. So just building it here quick. And that looks good. So we have our play button. As you can see, the stop button is kind of faded out, so that's disabled. The user can't press that, but the user can press the play button to start the track. So that's all good. So now what we need to do is we actually need to create functions of what we want to happen when the user presses the play button or presses the stop button. Okay, so we'll go back to our header file, and I'll just create two new functions here. We'll do void play button clicked and void stop button clicked. And then we're just going to implement these here. So here we go. I don't know why it's crossed out when I go to autocomplete that. Curious about that. And then we got stop button clicked. And there we go. So that's fine. And then we can go back up here. And we don't have anything implemented in there yet, but we will. So we got play button clicked. And then the same thing down here, stop button clicked. Cool. So when the button gets clicked, then these functions get called. Okay. So far we're fine. So what we need to do now is we basically need to have things happen when we hit the play button or hit the stop button. So we're going to need a new class here. So that's going to play our audio file. So let me pull it up here for you. I've already kind of preloaded it for you. So this is called audio transport source. And so this is just a positionable audio source that lets us play or stop our file. So if you think of a transport, like any sort of transport in a DAW, like Ableton or Logic, when you hit the play button and it starts or stops. So same kind of concept here. So audio transport source. Okay, so I'm just going to create an object here that's going to be called audio transport source. I'm just going to call it transport. Okay, so that's fine. And so now we have a transport. And now what we need to do is we have these functions here, right? So we can start the transport to start playing the file, or we can stop it. We can check to see if it's playing. We can set initializations and prepare to play. That reminds me, we can actually do that right now. So we can do a prepare to play implementation here. So in prepare to play, so just get rid of all this, and we could do transport prepare to play. And it just takes two arguments here. Our buffer size, so samples, we're just getting that from the prepare to play function there, and we're just plugging those in. So we've got sample rate here, and that's all good now. Okay, so okay, great. So now what we need to do is we need to basically create some states, some different states that we can associate with the buttons that we have. So when the button gets clicked, then it is in a play state. When the stop button gets clicked, then it's in a stop state. Okay. And what we can do is we can use an enum for that, enumeration. Okay. If you're not sure what that is, I'll put a link to that below. Okay. So this just enables us to kind of give it some, it's a little bit more useful for us to use an enum rather than just saying like state equals 0, and then 0 doesn't really have any meaning. So we can actually kind of associate some words here rather than just having like just some integers that would like describe our state. I hope I explained that right. So, so what we can do is we can start with a stopped state. Okay. So stopped will be like when the player is initially loaded. Okay. Then we have a playing. No, we'll do a starting state. Then we'll do a stopping state. Okay. So this is just what we're going to do is we're going to basically say if the state is started. Oh, I forgot to give it a name actually. So this is, we're just going to call this transport state. All right. And so what this enables us to do is to kind of give some names that are going to be a little bit more useful to us when we're describing what we want to happen in different states of the application. Okay. So first thing I need to do is create a transport state object. So transport state, just call it state. Okay. Then if I go over to my constructor, I can give it an initial state of stopped. Okay. So I could just say state and then stopped. Okay. It doesn't mean anything yet because we haven't told the application, pardon me. We haven't told the application of what we actually want stopped to mean yet. Okay, so we'll do that shortly. Okay, but what we can do is we can actually go down here into play, and for now, so this is just something that we're going to do as we kind of build the application up, right? When the play button's clicked, then I want the state to be playing or starting, rather. Okay, or actually it would be like this. Starting. Okay, so this is just to show you kind of how I'm thinking of this, going through the steps here. So, and then when we hit the stop button, then the state will be a stopping state, right? So, so that should be pretty self-explanatory. So now what we need to do is we actually need to define what those things mean. Okay. So what we could do is we can create like a function that says, okay, if the state is stopping, then we want it to mean that the transport stops and then the play button gets enabled, right? So let's go ahead and create a function here, and we'll call it void transport state changed. Okay. And actually we need an argument in here because we need transport state. So we need to know what the transport state is. And we'll just call this new state. Okay. And then we'll just go back to our CPP. We'll implement that here. I'm just going to copy and paste this actually. Like so. So we got void main component like that. Okay. So a lot of this, like a lot of these things that it checks is stuff that I've actually gotten from the Juice tutorial, and it's really well written. And, since it's well written, it's like, why reinvent the wheel? Try to learn from the best people that are doing it in the business. So let's go ahead and get this started. So basically what we want to do is we want to have a continual, we want to continually check to see if the any new state that we select is the same as the state it is currently. And if it's not, then we need to basically make some changes, right? So if I say, if, let's see here. So we have if the new state is not equal to the current state, right? So basically if our state changes, like if we click the stop button, then the state is now stopping, right? Then we basically need to tell it what we want it to do, right? So if the new state is not equal to the state, what we could do is now we can make it the state, the current state, right? So the state equals the new state. So we're just taking the new state and we're setting it to what the current state is now. Okay. And then what we need to do is we need to define what's going to happen when these states change. So basically we want certain buttons to enable and certain buttons to disable, and we want the transport to start, or we want the transport to stop. Okay. So let's just go ahead, and before we kind of go into this, we can maybe pseudocode some of it out, right? So if we have stopping, right? So if the person hits the stop button, then what we want to do is we want the play button to enable, and we want it to stop, right? Transport stop. And then if we have playing or starting, I keep saying playing, then we want, let's see here. So if we hit the play button, then we want to enable the stop button. And then we want the transport to play, right? So we want to start the transport. And then we have that initial state, which is stopped. And then what we want to do is if it's stopped, then we'll just bring the transport back to the beginning. And I think that'll be fine. Okay, so let's just start there. So what we're going to use for this is we're going to use a switch statement. Okay, pretty standard stuff in C++ and loads of other languages. I think pretty much every language uses switch statements. So what we want to do is we want to do a switch depending on the state. Okay, and so for the first one, we'll do stopped. All right, so we're going to just define what happens if it's in its initial state, which is just stopped. So we can say transport set position and put that at 0. So it just brings the transport back to the beginning. Okay, and we need to make sure that we have break in between each one of these, or else it won't work right. Okay, so then we'll go to case, and I'm just going to keep these in the same order as here. I don't know if you actually have to, but I think it's good practice. So we got starting, and then we're going to say, so we want stop button enable, or set enabled to be true. And then we want transport start. Okay, so that just means that the transport is gonna, when he hits the play button, the transport is going to start playing. Okay, we're gonna probably get some little kind of bugs in here, so bear with me if it's not completely right the first time. So we got stopping, and then we need play button enable, or set enabled, and that's true. And then we need transport to stop. And here, if it's, oh yeah, so a couple more things here. So if it's stopped, then we want play button to be enabled. Set enabled true. Here, if it's starting, then we want the play button to be disabled. So this might take me a few times to actually kind of get this right. So, and if it's stopping, set enabled to be false. So if they hit the stop button, we don't need them to hit the stop button again. Okay, so I think that's okay. Okay, so I'm just going to clean up some of this code here. Great. Okay, so now what we can do is we can go up here, and we need to actually do some things to enable our transport to be able to play our audio file. So we actually have to set the transport to play that particular audio file. So I believe that's transport set source. Okay, and the source is our temp source, and then I believe it's just get. So we're just getting the data that's in that's from our so it's not, so this is something I should actually clarify. So this is a pointer, so it's not, temp source isn't like holding data, it's just pointing to an audio format reader source that is holding the data. Okay, so it's a pointer, it's not like the actual data itself. Okay, so we got that. Going to get rid of this. We don't need that anymore. I feel like I'm missing something here. Oh, there's something else I actually forgot to mention. There was something I was wrong about in my last tutorial that I wanted to clarify here. So if you wanted MP3 files to be enabled to play or selectable from your when you're actually looking for a file, I thought that you do it like this, MP3 like that, but that's actually not correct. What you do is you actually just put a semicolon there like that, and then you add your additional audio formats right here like this. Okay, so now MP3 will be selectable. Okay, so let's see here. So we've got, so this is fine. Okay, so what we need to do now is we actually need to attach the transport state changed to when our play button clicked and stop button clicked are actually playing, and when these events are happening. So now what we could do is we can just say transport. We can call these functions within this play button click now, and we can now say now that transport state changed. Ooh, it's starting. I keep on saying playing. Okay, cool. And then we can do the same thing here. Transport state changed and stopping. Okay, so when they hit the stop button, then let's just go through this for a second. Make sure that this is right. I feel like I'm missing something. So when the user hits the play button, that's starting. That's in a starting state. The stop button gets enabled. The play button gets disabled. Okay, that sounds right to me. And the transport starts. Okay, when the stop button is clicked, the play button gets enabled, right? Because we want the user to be able to start it again if they wish. The stop button gets disabled and the transport stops. Okay. Oh, I forgot to put brakes here. Maybe that's what I felt like I was missing. Very important to have those there, or it won't work right. Okay, so let's just give this a test run and see. I don't know if it's going to work quite right when this first time around, but let's see. So here we are. We got our player. Let's go ahead and open it. And so we have a WAV file. We have an MP3 file here, so we can load up either one of these. Let's load the MP3. And let's see if this actually plays. Okay, so it doesn't actually play, and it doesn't look like it stops properly either. Okay, cool. So we just need to go in here and see what we need to do here. So this might take me a second. Oh, yes, of course. I didn't put it in my get next audio block. I saw something else was happening there, but let's just take care of one problem at a time. So we could do transport dot get next audio block. Okay, so this is just how we actually get it to play out the speakers. Okay, we just put that to our buffer, and now let's try. Okay, so it compiles okay. And here we go. Let's load an audio file. Let's play. Great. Okay, so let me just load an MP3, see if that plays. Great. Okay, that works. Okay, so now there was one thing that I wanted to try. So let's play this. Okay, so this is one thing that we just need to quickly fix, and I think I know how to do this. I think it was something I'd seen. So you saw it was playing. So a file was playing. I hit open to load another file. Now when I opened another file, it stopped. But you notice that I'm in a situation here where the stop button is now enabled. Now I have to hit stop, and then I have to hit play. Okay. Whereas I just want to hit play. So what we need to do is we need to actually create one more state here. Okay. And we'll just call that playing. Okay. So we'll just go over here. We'll add another state to our enum. So we got playing, and then where did I put that in my, so I put that second. So I don't know if it's important to keep these in order, but I think it's probably good practice. So we got playing, and then what we need to do is we need to do play button enable. Set enabled to true. Okay, and then break. And then let me see here. So when, let's see. So I think that there was a place that I needed to put this. Okay. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and I'm going to, okay, I'm just going to do a few things in here. So once the user chooses a file here, then we could do if reader is not equal to null pointer, then we want the user to be able to do all this stuff. Okay, so that's so if the user chooses another file, then now we have all this stuff that's going to happen here. So I'm going to do a transport state changed here to stopped again. So that brings it back to the beginning and stops the file, stops what, once the user selects another file, then it'll stop it and bring the next file back to the beginning. Okay, so, and then, okay, so what we could do, one more thing that we can do here is we can actually add a listener to listen for changes in the state. So let's go ahead and do this quickly. So if we go over here, we have the change listener class. So this just listens for if there's any event callbacks that are changed. Okay, so we just need to implement this in order for us to be able to see when our file is changed, so that we can actually reset the state. Okay, I hope I'm explaining that right. So we need to inherit here. So we need to do change listener. So we're going to inherit this functionality. Change listener. I always get nervous when it doesn't autocomplete. Okay, so now what we can do is we can go in here and we can do transport add listener. Is it add listener or change state when the state changes, and then we can just have it listen for any state changes. Okay, what's going on here? Transport state changed. Okay, I'm just gonna add listener. Is it add listener? Transport add change listener. That's it. Okay, here we go. So let's go with this. And I believe there's a virtual function we have to implement here. So we have to just say what happens with a change listener callback here. So that's a virtual function. So that means that we have to implement it when we're inheriting from change listener. Okay, so we can go back here and we just need to do this void, what's it called? Change listener callback. Just going to just copy that just for time's sake. Okay. And then I'm just going to copy that. Oh, this is going to be override as well. So because it's inheriting, because it's a pure virtual function, we have to, well, we don't have to, but we should put it override, mark it as override, so that anybody that's reading the code knows that that's a virtual function and not just some function that we just created out of thin air. Okay, so let's go ahead and implement this here. And I'm just going to do void and main component. Okay, so we need to define what happens if there's changes in the listener. So if source oh man, I'm losing it here. I'm losing my train of thought. What is it that I'm looking for? If sorry about this. I'm just gonna consult some notes here really quick, just so I don't have to restart this tutorial. Sorry about this. I do forget every now and then. So, oh yeah, that's it. So basically, it's listening to see if our source is the transport that we have. So if source is equal to our transport, we need to use a reference here. And then we need to check to see if the source is playing. If if the transport is playing, then we just make sure that the state is set to playing. So transport, and I feel like I'm losing it here. Transport state changed. Playing. Okay, and then else transport state. We just set it to stopped. Okay, that should do it, I hope. It's a bit of a bumpy ride there. So my understanding on that part is a little bit hazy on that, but I just had to consult the Juice tutorial on that last part. So it's just actually listening for changes, and if there's a change, then it sets it to stopped again. So let's just see if that works or not. So we're gonna play. Okay. Okay, cool. So that works. That works fine. Except I saw that the stop button didn't disable when it went back to when it reset again. So we need to do stop button set enabled false. Okay, so now I'm just going to try this again. And we should be fine now. Okay, so we're going to open the file, play it, then open. Okay, great. Then it didn't set it when, let's see, so when it's actually playing, stop button set enabled true. Oh, yeah, I'd have to go back here and debug some of this. But okay, so let me Let me just try one more thing. Yeah, I might just leave you here. It's a little bit buggy, but it does actually work. It will just take me a second to actually work through all these, right. But I mean, it's pretty much almost there. So I hope you can forgive me for not having it 1,000% completely. Yeah. Yeah, it'd take me a second to go through this and just actually debug it, but it's like 99% there. So I hope you can forgive me for not wasting any more of your time and just going through and trying to get it 100% right. But it's just actually going through here and just setting certain ones to false and making sure that all the states are agreeing. So but yeah, it pretty much works, and I hope that you got some things out of that tutorial. It's really been educational for me, and yeah. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you got something out of it, be sure to like it, and I will see you next time.